Okay, so I was reading an article about how a guy, some scientist proves that uh, that the consciousness lives on after death. It was basically a proof that there is life after death. It's a guy who got into quantum physics. He was some sort of scientist before then, uh, and um, he was just explaining how uh, the consciousness exists after the body dies, and he had said something kind of peculiar. He said time and space are like the shell of a turtle, right? And our consciousness is inside the shell, and when we die, we basically are taking off the shell, which is kind of weird terminology for me and stuff, right? Uh, I don't know about for anybody else, but for me, it just seemed kind of strange, right? That that he would attribute something like that to uh, to humanity. Basically, he said that all creation proves just because of the clockwork precision of it, and the way that it's all very purposely designed. That if the Earth was just a little bit closer to the sun, it wouldn't sustain life. It was a little bit further, right? This is the direction that I believe that he was going in, and I've heard people say that a lot coming from Christian circles. This guy was not a Christian though, and so immediately you might say, "Oh wow, that's so good, awesome." Yeah, a scientist proves it. Now, the proof that he had was because he thinks it, right? And so there's his proof and stuff, right? But then he went on to explain how because everything is so specific, it had to have a creator, and that creator was our consciousness. Our consciousness created the universe and made it so sustainable and da da da. So it wasn't God that did it. It had to have been us, ourselves, our consciousness that did it. And on top of that, he said when you die, that he brought in the whole idea of the multiverse and stuff. And when you die, he said your consciousness, the same consciousness exists in a world almost exactly like ours. And when you die, you take that power. So, or your consciousness melts. Okay, I said you take that power because there was a movie with Jet Li, a science fiction movie called The One, right? Where the whole multiverse exists in this science fiction movie, this science fiction movie, right? And I don't know if I said that the movie was science fiction, but fiction means it's not real, right? But that it came from somebody's imagination. And in this science fiction movie, right, it showed that there was one that there is the multiverse, and you exist in some form or another in all of the multiverse. In one multiverse, you might be a criminal, in the other one, you might be a cop. On one, you might be a doctor. The other one, you might be a homeless bum, right? But when you die, right, then your consciousness melds with the other consciousness, and they get more powerful that way, right? Well, this criminal figures it all out, and he decides he's going to start hopping through the multiverse and killing the other hymns so that he can get almost godlike power and stuff, right? Anyways, it's a cool show. I like it. It's got some kung fu. That's cool, right? It's got Jet Li. He's amazing, right? And it seemed like a good show. I liked it. One thing that I will not do is base my entire reality on it, though. Right? And it's so funny that people will be like, oh, yes, yes. And the whole scientific community is going along with this, or not the whole scientific, actually it's caused some ripples, but very prominent members of the scientific community are saying, yes, this must be it. Because then he goes on to say that because of the multiverse, when you die, you don't go to heaven or hell. Right? First he said that God didn't create everything. An intelligent designer did, and it was our consciousness, right? and and so our consciousness made the universe, making me basically like God who created everything, right? And and then there is no heaven or hell. You just go to another reality, right? To live and die, and then it goes on, which is basically reincarnation as well, right? So the crazy thing about it, right, is that everybody wants to agree on one thing, right? But they never want to agree on God being real. They will go to the furthest reaches of the universe and say little green men before they say God. They will go to the furthest reaches of the multiverse to say man created everything, right? Rather than to give glory to God, right? Here it says in Romans chapter 1, it says they changed the, ah, it says in verse 20, or verse 19, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful, but they became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Right? So, they didn't want to recognize God. All creation shows you that there is a God, but they suppress that on purpose because they don't want to recognize God as God, right? But they're all without excuse. So I know some people who have fallen away from Christ in recent times, right? And they're in fornication, relationships. They're back in the New Age witchcraft. They're in all this junk and stuff like that, and they don't want to recognize God as God. And they'll come up with all these quote unquote proofs, like this article, which has zero proof that any of it is true, except that it came from his imagination. And then the article actually starts talking about H.G. Wells, who is another science fiction author. All right, but it's all science fiction. It's their imagination. They became vain in their imaginations, right? And their foolish heart was darkened. They professed themselves to be wise, and in doing so, they became fools. So, welcome to the modern age, where we will suppress the truth and will run away from anything that points at God. We'll mock people who believe in God, and we'll call them unintelligent, but then we'll believe a scientist who basically rips off his entire theory. It says this theory proves that the consciousness lives on. A theory is not proof. A theory is an idea that has yet to be proven. Okay? So he has an idea that he basically ripped off of a Jet Li Kung Fu flick. And the scientists and supposed intellectuals run after it like it's gold, professing themselves to be wise. They became fools. It's kind of crazy, man. It's a very, very sad thing, right? Very sad thing. Let me see if I can find this real quick. There was something else that I wanted to cover real quick. This says, Dead flies, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 10. It says, dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savor. So does a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honor. A wise man's hand is at the right hand. A wise man's heart is at the right, but a fool's hand is at the left. Yea, also when he that is a fool walks by his way, his wisdom fails him, and he says to himself that he is a fool. All right. There's a dividing line right now, right? The left people, right? Because the dividing line is right and left, right wing or left wing, right? Right wing or left wing. Okay. All right, we're not going to get into democratic parties. We're going to get into a system of thinking. There are those who are conservative on the right and those who are liberal, they're on the left, right? Here it says that a wise man, his heart is at the right, but a fool is at the left, okay? And man, I heard a guy explaining it, and it was so good, right? That eventually they're going to look up and they're going to say that they're fools. They're going to be like, man, I was so foolish. And I want to talk to you all about that. Do not wait until it's too long. Right? With your liberal way of thinking and all of this stuff that goes against common sense. Right? We're going to take away all the guns so that nobody ever gets shot again, right? It would be amazing if we could just, make all the guns illegal so that nobody ever gets shot again. Just like we should make methamphetamines illegal so that nobody gets strung out again. Yeah, that works, right? Look at Mexico, who has the strictest gun laws in the Western Hemisphere, and they suffer cartel violence on a regular basis. It's common sense, man. Right? The left says pro-choice. It's a woman's decision if she murders her baby or not. Right? That the baby isn't even a living creature, but then everybody has seen the baby kicking in the womb, seen it press its foot out, right? Moving around, right? It's a living being. It's a human. It's a child. You can't say that it's anything less, right? This man, is it a man? He's a woman? No, he's a man. He's got 2 X chromosomes, or he's got an X and a Y chromosome, right? The woman has 2 X chromosomes. You can't change that. You cannot change it. Okay? And even the anagram, or whatever you want to call it, LGBTQ, lesbian, bisexual, or lesbian, gay, bisexual, that's saying that there's 2 sexes, male and female. Come on. Common sense. Common sense. If you look at reality, you know in your heart that there is a God. And you better acknowledge it before it's too late. One day you're going to look up and you're going to be like, I was a fool. I was a fool. Man, you can pick up horror stories of atheists on their deathbed. A friend of mine, a pastor, was going in and he was trying to minister to this atheist who didn't want anything, cussed him out and stuff. He was passing, and as he was passing, the pastor was there because he was a friend of the family, and the guy grabbed him and said, you have to do something. Terrified to die, and realizing that he messed up and there was no way to fix it. There's no reason to be that way. A fool's heart, or a wise man's heart, is at the right. Okay? Conservative thinking. You may feel like I'm twisting the scripture and stuff like that, man, but go read it. Go find a Bible and pick it up and read it. Ecclesiastes 10, like 1 and 2. Okay? Guys, why is it that we can run after whatever theory, right? But the fact of God just offends us? It's a scary thought, man. It's a scary thought. We all need to draw close to God while He can be found, okay? I love you guys. I love all of you. I love you atheists, man. Too much to let stuff go, okay? I love y'all. God bless y'all. Have a great day.